Mr. Modi said a few months ago that GIFT, IFSCA, will set new benchmarks for innovation, efficiency, and global collaboration. And it's my honor today, and on behalf of everybody who's organized this, that today we are delving into the most transformative stories in India through IFSCA and GIFT City. And at the heart of this dynamic evolution is International Financial Services Center. And with me today, representing IFSCA, is Joseph Joshy, sir. He's the head Fintech and IT Chief General Manager at International Service Centers Authority. So if you are in crypto, if you're in blockchain, he is the man with relation to blockchain, finance, and tokenization. I would love all of you to give a round of applause. He's made his way all the way to Bangalore from Ahmedabad, sir. So the first question I have, sir, it's 4:30, I know, a lot of traffic. Ahmedabad or Bangalore, sir?
Looking at the crowd, any day Bangalore. Is that a question?
All right. So we have heard a lot about regulations in India. Any new founder comes here, talks about all of this. How do we go about? But India has many regulatory bodies like RBI, like SEBI. Why was there a need of IFSCA? And why have we heard so many good things from the Prime Minister about GIFT City and IFSCA in the last 3 to 4 years, sir?
Okay, so since it's 4:30, I will keep it very brief and to the point. But I think this statement might resonate with most of you. There was a time talent and capital moved out of the country. Resonates with you? Probably regulations, probably the ease of doing business. India's rupee is not fully convertible. A lot of challenges. So what happened? All these businesses went to offshore location. Now, the government of India created something called as an IFSC. This is in GIFT City, Gandhinagar, Gujarat. It's called the International Financial Service Center. It's actually international India. So rupee is not the currency there. You can't do business in rupee. You can do business in dollars and 15 other currencies which we as a regulator have put in. But then when they started IFSC, the 4 domestic financial sector regulators were the regulators for it, RBI, SEBI, IRD, and PFRDA. And for reasons to bring in ease of doing business, the government, through an act of parliament, created a new regulator with the powers of these 4 regulators. That is the authority for IFSC, that is the IFSCA, the organization which I represent. So we are a unified regulator with the powers of the 4 domestic sector regulators and something else for that zone, right? So it's like, most of you know Dubai. So DIFC is GIFT City. DFSA, the regulator there, is IFSCA. Make sense? So why do we need this? Because we need to do things innovatively. Domestic has its own challenges, so why not create this new zone? Now, what have we done there? Not just the regular banking, capital markets, insurance, or funds industry, which is already happening. There are some new things which has come in. I do not know how many of you know this. India is the 3rd largest aviation market. Do you know that? After US and China. Now, what happens is, for the planes which are flying here, our airlines go to Dublin, take it on lease, and it flies here, carrying all of us. Now, guess what? All the taxes and commissions goes to a foreign government. Jobs are created there for the accountants and legal guys, for a business in India, for Indians, to be used by Indians. All because of the simple reason that we do not have aircraft leasing regulatory framework in the country. So as a new financial sector regulator, we said, oh, let's create that. Because regulator can create regulations. We draw the powers from the acts, the IFSC Act, the regulations we create under that, the frameworks, the circulars. So now guess what? Your Indigo or Air India need not go all the way to Dublin. They just come to GIFT City and lease the aircrafts. We extended that to ship leasing. So guys who are going to Dubai can come to GIFT City. And I'm thinking we will one day do spacecraft leasing also. We don't know. We can do it. So these are the kind of innovations you can do in the financial sector. Now that's one part of the thing. The other part of the thing, India is probably the 2nd largest consumer of gold after China. Thanks to our great-grandmothers, grandmothers, mothers, daughters, wives, girlfriends, whatever, we have about 25,000 tons of gold in our household. But does India decide the price of gold? LBMA does it. London Bullion Management Association. Why? Because they control 70% of the market. We have so much of gold. We are the second largest consumer, but we don't have a say. And guess what? When we put our heads together, we found that we do not have a wholesale trading center or an exchange or a bullion exchange. And as a regulator, we created the regulations to bring up a new India International Bullion Exchange, which is there in IFSC. So what I'm trying to say is, GIFT City, the IFSC, is bringing in new financial innovations which was not there in domestic India, right? And what we did, we pushed it further. We created something called as a Fintech Entity Framework. I'm sure most of you would not have heard about it. This was launched in April 2022. Another 4-5 months, it'll be 3 years. And that has a component called TechFin, Technology for Finance. And in that, we have recognized Web3, Metaverse, distributed ledger technology, AI, ML companies. So friends, you already had a regulatory framework which supported this in the country, but in GIFT City. I'm not sure if you know this, but this is true. With that, I'll just pause here to let you know why GIFT City and why a new regulator to do things differently. Over to you.
Oh, absolutely. I hope what you hear, I hope you're hearing what he's saying is pretty historical. We have seen in India, crypto getting banned, wrong things, bad things. We've heard so much, right? Crypto was banned in India and back in 2018, right? Then the RBI decision was squashed. To this today, if you are even developing a small AI agent, you're being part of a crypto exchange, you've been part of a blockchain, this is pretty historical. India has a regulator which is working hand in hand with everything and anything to do with blockchain. And that's why I said, consider yourself lucky. So if you haven't heard of GIFT City, if you haven't heard of IFSCA, this is your chance. And I think all of you should be proud of yourself. Who says US is doing good? Who says Singapore is doing good? This is our country with a regulator who's doing good in crypto. Now, India, sir, has seen, as an industry, we saw the exchanges doing really well. Then we saw a spurt of blockchains coming in and doing their things across India. But the last 2 or 3 years, a lot has been said, done, debated, abused, good, bad things have happened around tokenized real-world assets. Now, there are a lot of definitions for that, right? So anybody who's building anything to do with tokenized real-world asset, whether it's real estate, whether it's bonds, building these massive companies, right? What steps is GIFT City and IFSCA taking to create a regulatory framework that supports the tokenization of RWAs in India?
Okay, so he's hitting the nail right on its head, right? So before I jump into tokenization, right, I believe some of you might have heard about IFSC for the first time. So there is one more aspect to IFSC. When you transfer funds from US to Singapore, Foreign Exchange Management Act, FEMA doesn't come into play. You can just transfer dollars just like that. But when you do it to India, you know what happens. In GIFT City, in IFSC, as I said, rupee is not there. So it's the dollar account which you open. And when you transfer money, it's just the same. Transferring from Singapore to US or GIFT IFSC to US, it's just the same. But transferring from GIFT IFSC to Bangalore is the same as transferring from US to Bangalore. The same FEMA comes in, and that's the difference you should know. Now, when we zoom this into tokenization, it's not easy, trust me, because we have to create regulations. And as a regulator, there are some fundamental things we look into. Some of you might not have thought from this angle because you're all building and innovating. But things which are close to our hearts are, one, market integrity, financial stability, consumer protection. Boring things, conservative things, but these are very foundational for us. So when we build regulations, we have to build it around this. And that's why we have to take some time to think through it. Now, when we said blockchain is already enabled, distributed ledger is enabled, yes, enterprise-grade blockchain, which are giving solutions to BFSI sector, especially the global BFSI. Today, if your business use case is strong, within 60 days, we can give you authorization to set up there. Now, I'm taking a little bit more before jumping into tokenization. So GIFT City has all these wonderful things, but still Singapore and Dubai might be still better. So you know what the government did? The government said, let's make it very competitive. And they introduced a 10-year tax holiday. So essentially, it's out of 10 or 15 years, you choose which 10, you pay zero tax on your profits in Gift City, Gift IFSC. There is zero GST, zero SCT, zero CTT, everything is literally zero. So that's the way the government made it very competitive. So now we have a use case where it is international, it's very competitive in terms of taxations, and that's why companies are coming. So why not advanced concepts like tokenization? That was the thought process. Because at the end of the day, what you're achieving through tokenization, liquidity, and a whole lot of innovative products coming in. Now, what we did was, as any regulator, we can do something called as a regulatory sandbox. I'm not sure how many of you have heard about regulatory sandbox. The concept is simple. If I don't have a regulation, I can't license you or authorize you. But I can give you permission to enter my regulatory sandbox to try out innovative products, solutions. We can co-create the regulation. When you exit the sandbox, I can create a regulation through which I can give you a license or authorization. So that's the simple concept of regulatory sandbox. So when we opened up our sandboxes, IFSCA is international, and we had a lot of applications coming from cross-border fintechs, payment companies, cross-border, because that's a real pain to be solved. And guess what? Today, learning from that experiences, we have already created payment regulations. There is a separate payment division handling licenses or authorizations for this. The next wave of applications which we got were on tokenization. So regulatory sandbox, or the sandbox, was our way of understanding what the industry is focusing on in solving the problem. So when first was cross-border payment fintechs, the next was on tokenization. And guess what? I got tokenization on deposits, I got tokenization on bonds, I got tokenization on real estate, the real world asset, so on and so forth, that I had to stop taking applications because it was overflowing. So that's how we started. And then we started looking at each of the model. What do they do when they tokenize deposits, bonds, real estate, so on and so forth. Then we set up a committee, like any government organization we have to, but very good people, it is there on public domain. And in a short few weeks, I think we have reviewed the first draft. I think maximum by the January, the newer gift, the committee output will come. And it will be out for public consultation. If you're working on the tokenization space, please give your comments. We will read each one of it, I can assure you that. There is a team on that, and that will be taken into the regulation aspect. That's the idea of doing a public consultation, okay? Now, some thoughts. I'll tell you why it's a difficult job. It's very easy to say tokenization, but token, what does it represent? If it is going to represent a tokenized deposit, then it is from a banking side. Now I have to think like a banker and a regulator like RBI. If your token is representing a security, then I have to think like SEBI, the capital markets. There is a token aspect from income tax perspective, right? Insurance can also tokenize. So just saying token is a heavily loaded word. Second, what does the token represent? What kind of rights do you get? We need to think through that. And for example, I was just telling a gentleman some short while ago, if there are certain things not permitted legally, and if I tokenize that, and if the token gives a right to that, then am I crossing the legal boundary? Just a simple example is, if a foreigner comes to India, and in 3 months he wants to buy real estate, he cannot buy real estate. Now, if I tokenize real estate, and if he buys a token, and if your token says he has rights to the real estate, then I have a problem. So then we have to craft for real estate. They don't have the actual rights, but they can get some other benefit. So what is the asset beneath it also means a lot when you define the rights. Now, you extend it beyond custody. What kind of custody should I look as a regulator? Self-custody, or should I look at third party? Again, a lot of deliberations are required based on what you are going to look at the asset itself. Who will issue the token? What should be the disclosures from them before they issue the token? Because at the end of the day, I'm worried about the consumers and investors too. I need to look at that angle. Then how does the settlement happen? You can trade. Who will be the guarantee there? I need to put things in place for that, right? Then comes your KYC, AML, CFT. I don't know if you know it. Know your customer, anti-money laundering, financing terror. As a regulator, I need to look at those angles too, right? And then, how do I sustain the ecosystem? How can I permit automated market making? How can I look at things to make it easier? Should I bring in a self-regulatory organization for this? So I'm not asking for solutions here. Probably we can ask it later. But what I'm trying to say is this is how the mind of a regulator goes through when we are looking at a piece of a problem and trying to create regulation. I'm just skimming the surface, but you get the drift, right? But we think tokenization is a good concept to spend our time. We have spent good time. And the request is when our committee report comes out, I would expect all of you to give your feedback so that we can then create probably the first set of solid tokenization regulations in India. Over to you.
Absolutely, sir. I think that needs a huge class. This is historical in terms of whatever he is saying. But on a non-serious note, Bitcoin hit 100K last night, sir. What do you think of that, sir?
Bitcoin will hit more, I think. Jan 20 is coming soon.
By the way, it's an Indian regulator saying Bitcoin will hit gold. I don't want to make anybody fall in trouble, but on a personal note, reflecting on your journey from Infosys here to Gift City, creating regulators for people like all of us who are building in Web3. So what significant changes have you observed? It sounds very light-hearted question, but we've seen banks using core banking technologies by some of these companies. Then we saw the fintech wave coming in. But what wave and what significant changes have you seen, sir? And where do you see genuinely with regulators like this under the current government of India and what's happening in under WARA in Dubai and MAS in Singapore, where do you see India fit into even supporting any one of us? Like somebody who just wants to build an AI agent to do something on decentralized finance, somebody who just wants to create a DEX in India. I don't know how do you create that, but where do you see the future of fintech, the banking industry and fintech coming together? And where do you see that change happening, sir? And do you think even if it's change happening or it's just in the air?
That's a lot of questions. Yeah. So when probably in the late 90s, I got an offer from ISRO, that's also another I, to join as a scientist, and they said, come to Ahmedabad. I was based out of Chennai that time, and I said, oh, Ahmedabad is too far away, right? And that's when Infosys said, you can be in Chennai or Bangalore, it's up to you. I mean, we had hardly 100, 150 people in Chennai, and worldwide probably 2,000, 3,000 people. Of course, Infosys took me multiple places, US, Canada, Mexico. Came back, dabbled a little bit, startup. Then Dr. Raghuram Rajan's technology subsidiary for RBI was founding member there. Again, that was like a startup for the central bank, worked with about 25 plus departments in RBI. I was there in Mumbai for 5 years. And then this regulatory stuff, new regulator came again, jumped in, because it's again a startup regulator. So been like a startup. Infosys was a startup. RBI's thing was a startup. This is a startup regulator. So it's very interesting. But I do not want to give any technology gyan to the question which you said. I want to draw reference from my personal life. When Infosys gave me ESOPs many years ago, I do not know, I'm sure many of you would not have seen a physical share certificate, right? When you buy stock. That's gone. It's all dematerialized. So later on, we had to all open DMAT because ESOPs are getting vested. So we went in, we had to give KYC document, fill a lot of forms, sign, PAN card, again print out and attest it. Today, what do? Any app, liveliness test, 4 or 5 clicks, your account is open, Aadhaar, identity layer is taken care of, UPI payment layer is taken care of. That's how fintech has transformed, which I am seeing. But then when we did it that time, the backend was the settlement layer. CCIL was there, DMAT is there, the same exchange is there. Today also the same thing. So T+3, we went to T+2, T+1, working hard, pushing the infrastructure hard. But I'm wondering now the time has come that while we have made the front-end UX and the entire process sleek and frictionless, the backend has to get the same upgrade. We are talking about atomic settlements built into the system with your blockchain. So why are you not exploring those kind of things? So I think that's something which we could take a gamble to see how can we make the backend also as sleek as the front end which we have today, right? And then of course AI, the last session I was hearing, it was fantastic, AI and blockchain. I think all those are amazing use cases which are going to come. We can go on and on the technology stuff, but because of the paucity of time, I'll just stop here because I talked about the backend because I see a lot of talent here, young talent, and I think this is the talent which is going to change the structure of India, especially the front end and the back end.
Absolutely, sir. And a couple of last things before we go, sir. There are a lot of folks over here that we've met in the last 2-3 days, even at the other events which was happening. Some of them are 16-year-olds building in something on chain. Some folks are retired. I met a retired army folk who was building something. He's what, 65 right now. But one thing that I've seen which has not changed generally over the years, from the time that we were running an exchange in India to what we're running now, majority of folks in Web3 and blockchain, they're very averse to, India, you can't do anything in crypto and blockchain because regulators are not in our favor. And I feel sad when I see my friends moving to Dubai to doing something under VARA, or moving to Singapore to do something under the MAS, or going to Delaware, put up an entity over there and do something over there. But I think that's a misnomer. If there are 10, 15 companies like us, we have survived for 10, 15 years building this. So my last question is, some of them are young, some of them have made it in life, they're still building something in crypto. If I am a 25-year-old developer, product manager, founder of a crypto blockchain company, and I am an Indian living in India, what should be my approach in terms of working hand in hand with regulators? Or do we even have to go and knock on doors of the government? How do I even approach that? Because what happens is, sir, most of these folks end up knocking on door of agencies which talk on their behalf to the government. And most of these folks do not even have the capital. They don't even have the knowledge of whether sandboxes exist in India. Even SEBI does sandbox. So my question is, I'm a founder, I'm an Indian, I don't want to run away to Dubai and Singapore, sir. I'm in blockchain. How do I approach the government? How do I approach agencies like you? How would I go about it?
Okay. So first thing is, before getting into the approach part, blockchain token, obviously, there is a cryptographic algorithm. That's why the word crypto. These are not bad words, right? The sovereign and the central bank has a stand on the cryptocurrency. That's the cryptocurrency part. Well, there are a lot of things happening. Let's hope things get better. But right now, the cryptocurrency is something which I, as a regulator, because I'm also having a dotted line to FinMin, will have to follow. But cryptocurrency is one part of it. There's a lot of other things using these technologies which can be applied. I do not know how many of you know Hedera Hashgraph, HBAR. You would have heard of it. They have something called as the Swiss Digital Asset Institute, based out of Switzerland. I have given authorization to their Indian entity to set up and gift city to run accelerator programs to build solutions on Hedera Hashgraph for the BFSI sector. They will start operations early next year. Probably you don't know. They came under the same framework which came in, but they're not given permission to run it as a cryptocurrency. You're not going to get into the central banking function of managing currency, the monetary policy and stuff. But as a technology, we should definitely encourage that. That's why the entire framework is there, right? Now with that set apart, because when we say crypto, people naturally take different connotations, so I want to clarify that here. Now with respect to founders, on a lighter note, seeing the energy, I want to join them. I think you're all building and that is the best thing. No wonder somebody from army is already there. Somebody from regulator also can join. But I think you need to understand one thing. There are a lot of things on the regulator's plate, right? So during my days in Mumbai with the Reserve Bank, talking to the different entities and the departments there, on one end I had the common man, I had the cooperative banks, the smaller type of banks. On the other end, I had the HNIs, I had the most sophisticated private foreign banks. So that's the range you're looking at. So naturally, the focus, they have limited bandwidth, they have to focus on things which matter. Whereas in IFSC, I mean, there's not much of a common man stuff. We are looking at high-end stuff, innovation. So probably we will have more. So the first point is to choose which door to knock, where the reception is more welcoming, where things are happening. You need to be wise in that aspect, right? Don't go and hit. I'm not saying they won't consider. They're all considering. RBI has started a fintech department. They're meeting out with fintechs. The RBI Innovation Hub is doing fantastic stuff, right? So they're all open. But then everybody is talking about some of the things you are all talking here, tokenization and all those stuff. It's not that it is not there. I'm part of the inter-regulatory technical group on fintech where all the regulators come in and the finance ministry and MeitY comes in. We are talking about tokenization there also to see how it is coming in. So it's not that we are not talking about it. Only thing is the priority for the regulators is what we need to be knowing. That's one. Second, as I said, there are a lot of avenues. Sometimes RBI conducts hackathon, these meetings. There are SROs being set up. I think FACE was given. So these are all steps for you to go genuinely up the way. And lastly, you should also know how to navigate the website of a regulator. If you see the government websites or the regulator websites, I can bet you what all you need is already there, but you can't find it. That's the way it might be there. I mean, not that it is deliberate, it happens like that, right? So how do you navigate the website to get the required information is also a skill, because most of the information are there, and for all you know, there are a lot of internal controls which we have, that if we receive communication or email on a request or for a license or an authorization, there is a certain timeline which we need to be bound by to respond back, say yes or no and things like that. I'm sure most of you don't know that. You think it's a black box, right? So knowing what is that escalation channel which is already there in the regulatory websites and how to push the escalation buttons to navigate is also something very important for people, right? And sometimes you don't know. There are numbers listed, and if the stars favor you, you make a call, somebody might lift the phone. 50-50 chance, right? But even that works. And cold calling is sometimes encouraged too when people are having the bandwidth. So there is no silver bullet per se, like this is the only way to do it. But there are avenues, and I can assure you today regulators are more open. I mean, the very fact that I'm sitting here in this event is testimony to the thing that we want to hear what the market, the industry, the builders, entrepreneurs are talking, thinking, and wanting to hear, so that we can do better regulations. Because at the end of the day, the regulations are to protect the market, protect the entrepreneurs, protect the common man, right? So to know that, we need to know what you need. So it's a two-way street, and I think the perception that you should not talk to a regulator, you cannot talk to the regulator, I think you should dispel that. That's the way I would end it.
Thank you so much, sir. It's been a pleasure hosting you. It's rare that a regulator all the way from Ahmedabad and GIFT City and Government of India comes down and talks to you. My only appeal to everybody, you're here in India, if you're an Indian, stop going to Singapore and Dubai. You've heard from the man who sets these regulations in India. Come build in India, as Soumya keeps saying that, build on chain, put Indians on chain. We keep saying that. क्या डर क्या रहे हो यार, इंडिया में बनाओ, regulations है, the government supports you just need to know to the right channels. Let us all get together and make this entire country be on chain. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Aritra and this is Joshy Joseph.
Thank you very much.